Can a man really be trusted to remain faithful? That's a very good question. I think the only time a man would be faithful, would remain faithful, is if you tie him in a leash every time he does go out, and you go out with him, and then when he comes back, you remove the leash off of him and you let him roam around. Yeah, you let him roam around the house like the dog he is. And I'm just I'm just kidding. For this video, we'll act like men are not dogs, and we'll just go about answering. No, I'm kidding about that too. But to jump on it, I think it really depends on the man that you're asking that from, right? I think you can't. It's safe to say that if you do ask a street dude to remain faithful to you, I don't think he will be faithful to you, because I mean, he can't be faithful to you because he's loyal to the game. He's for the streets. He's loyal to his circle of friends. Um, and I know some girls might say, hey, I got a street dude. He's given to me. He's loyal to me. He's given everything to me. He's faithful to me. I don't think that's the case. He's faithful until he's not. Until you really look through his phone, or you follow his whereabouts. Then you find out quickly that he's not for you. And this is not me wishing bad on your devilish romance, but and this is not me also putting down a lot of street dudes, because I know of some who I try to reach out to and try to help improve their lives. And I know some who actually have turned their life around and who are doing very good right now. But from what I know and what I see, a lot of street dudes don't have the recipe to be faithful. They don't have their priorities in the right place, and to expect that from them is like expecting heartbreak. You're looking for something that's not there. They can't give you what they don't have. And I think a lot of girls go through that trauma, and they go through being with a guy from the street, and they hurt them, and they go through that trauma, and they paint everyone with the same brush, and they say, men are trash, men can't be faithful, men are dogs. If you mess around with dogs and you get bit, you can't say everyone else is trash. You can't say everyone else is going to be unfaithful. That's just wrong. And I think that's where a lot of the trauma comes from, because a lot of girls believe in this idea that's presented in the media and that's projected and that's often seen in society, that like, you should follow what excites you, and this adrenaline, and that bad boys are the way to go, and the media pushes that agenda, and this ride or die, like, you have to be loyal to your man no matter what he does, and this and that. So a lot of girls really end up hurting themselves in the process, because now they want the excitement, the bad guy, and they end up getting hurt, and they have that trauma that affects them for a very long time. So I think it's the selection of men. It depends on it depends on the person that you're asking that from. And let's say, hey, I did select the right man, right? How can I trust him to remain faithful? I think you can't control someone else. Right? You can't control someone to be faithful. You can't make someone be faithful to you. I think what you have control over is how you are towards them. I think you only have control over yourself, because even if you select the right person, and you say, hey, this guy shows these kind of qualities, I like this type, I like this type of quality, and it's the right quality that I'm looking for. You can't really control them, because for men there's so many temptations. There's a lot to go around. They look for so many things, and for men they're visual, right? So they can be tempted by a lot of things. But you can't control that. You can't control how a man behaves. You can't control how faithful a man is going to be to you. I think what you have control over is how well you do to them, and how much you give. I think it's important to make sure that you give your best self. You give what you can. Like, you love that person as much as you can. And a lot of people go into this mindset that, hey, I'm gonna hold back. Like, if they've been hurt before by choosing the right person, and then that person was unfaithful, then they go into another relationship, and they say, you know what, I'm gonna hold back because maybe this person is gonna be unfaithful to me down the line. And that's, you you're not you're not doing yourself justice. You're not giving all that you can give to that person. And I think if that person is unfaithful, irregardless, you can sleep at night and say, hey, you know what, I did give my best self to this person. I did give all that I have to this person. And if they decide to do that, it's not about you, it's about them. And I know a lot of girls say, hey, if he's unfaithful to me, he never loved me. Is it true that he never loved me? Excuse me. Is it true that he never loved me? Um, he might have loved you. He might have loved you. It just wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. There wasn't more that that kept him around, that to remain faithful. And what I mean by more is, there wasn't enough. Like, there wasn't the love of God, right? Or there wasn't the love for God. And had there been a lot more of that, had there been a lot more of so many other things, then chances are he would have made the right decision to remain faithful, to be only with you. And you should be comforted with, knowing that karma does exist, that what you give to the world, what you give to people, the love that you share will come back to you. And I know it's hard to believe that, especially when you go through maybe one or two or three guys who you actually give your all to, and they continue to disappoint you. It's hard to believe that, and you might think like, oh, I'm giving so much good, but so much bad is coming back to me, and I'm this and that. It's really not the case. No love is wasted. Your love will be rewarded. You've given you've given your all, and you've done what you can do. And I think for that person to remain faithful to you is based on how he operates, right? As long as you've made the selection, as long as you've done your due diligence, as long as you did what you have to do in selecting the right partner, I think everything else, you leave it up to Allah. You let God control everything else. And I think if they decide to leave you, then it's really for your own good. Sometimes something that sometimes you might like a thing, as Allah says, sometimes you might like a thing that is bad for you, and sometimes you may hate a thing and it's good for you. So just because he left, it doesn't mean it's always a bad thing. Sometimes you might get closer to God. Maybe with him you were a little distant. Maybe he took you away from the love of God. Maybe maybe him leaving reminded you of a few things. Maybe helped you discover yourself, discover your family, and things like that. So guys are not really dogs with no intellect. Guys know what they're doing. They have the capabilities to remain faithful. They have what it takes to remain faithful. And I think it all depends on what the guy decides to do. I think they can choose to remain faithful. They can choose to lower their gaze. They can choose to be for you. Because Allah didn't create us as animals. He created us with intellect. He created us with the ability to choose, and the ability to decide what we want to do. So